The Grenlec Debates. Power, bright ideas.
We begin with a quote from businessman George Soros, and I quote, "A full and fair discussion is essential to democracy." End of quotes. I am your host, Ambrosia Charles, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this episode of the 2024 Grenlec Debates, part 2 of the preliminary round highlights. Please note, the matches, topics, and positions are randomly selected, and the debates are done impromptu. The students developed their arguments today. The theme for the preliminary round is renewable energy sources. The areas of focus are types of renewable energy, advantages and disadvantages of renewable energy sources, and technological developments in the field of renewable energy. This match is between the Anglican High School and Westmoreland Secondary School. The motion is, be it resolved that Caribbean governments should provide incentives for solar installations.
Honorable Chair, esteemed judges, dear audience, worthy opponents, pleasant day to all. Be it resolved that Caribbean governments should provide incentives for solar installations, a statement of which its validity should never be questioned. My team and I firmly agree with the proposed moot. The following definitions are provided by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. To provide means to make preparation to meet a need. Incentives is a stimulus or aid in achieving a motive. Government is the exercise of authority over a state or organization. Honorable Chair, we're all human. Tap into your human ability to sympathize and empathize. Pray tell there was a mandate for solar panel installations. How would the average citizen whose minimum wage is $1,200 afford solar panels, which costs vary from $10,000 to $30,000? Not only do you have to pay for the panel itself, but consider costs to hire to install and the maintenance of this technology. Is the opposition saying we should drive ourselves into crippling debt? Or do they simply lack the basic ability to empathize? Esteemed judges, I pray that there's still a voice of reason, and if there isn't, let me be that voice of reason.
My team and I firmly believe that providing incentives for solar installations is not something that should be done. I will strengthen my stance by using points such as wastage of money on incentives rather than healthcare, education, and important infrastructure. Incentives rushes people to do the work and the product will be of poor quality. Esteemed judges, are we not all wondering that if all the money goes towards rewarding incentives, where will we get the money for healthcare, education, and infrastructure? I understand your concern, worthy opponent. However, a solar panel cannot power a broken down house, school, or hospital now, can it? The sun won't shine forever, nor will the wind blow. So this is why we need to address this issue. Additionally, according to the former Minister of Energy, Gregory Bowen, stated that solar panels require much space to provide power for just one house. So where will we find a space for these panels? Secondly, worthy opponents, do you not think that if there is an incentive or source of motivation and reward for installing solar panels, the people will rush the job and as a result, the infrastructure will be of poor quality? The solar panels will run people out of jobs and rush the job. As a result, the infrastructure will be of poor quality. Just to reap the benefits, the people will do this. This can also lead to injuries and death because of the hurried installations and electrical wiring.
Judges, providing incentives for solar installations lift the oh-so-heavy burden that financially affects citizens who struggle tremendously. Citizens who cannot even afford to keep their lights on for a long period of time. Citizens who have a minimum wage of $1,200. Judges, Government aid can surely improve this terrible situation. For example, projects like the solar aid provide solar lights to over 3 million people in Africa. 3 million? Now, I'm no mathematician, but I believe that 3 million is a large amount.
My points that I'll be reinforcing are: rushed implementations will be poor. Installing low-quality panels is a total waste, and loss of jobs by people from fossil fuels companies. As my first speaker had stated in their second point, by installing solar panels, quality of their implementation will be very poor. Think about being exposed to habits that you're not used to. Additionally, smaller islands will face major problems in connecting their solar panels to their island's energy grid. For example, think of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, our sister islands. Do we really want to see them suffer, my worthy opponents?
My worthy opponents, solar panels take up many acres of land to produce enough energy to power homes and businesses. How would this affect smaller countries who may not have this amount of land to give up?
My worthy opponent, you can install panels, for example, residentials. They can install panels on rooftops. It does not necessarily need to take up land, large.
Worthy opponent, what about large businesses that are like 14 stories tall and they don't have enough space for that?
Well, most Caribbean countries don't have buildings that are 14 stories tall.
What do you think solar installation refers to? Not solar panels? Enlighten me on this. How would the government prevent abuse of incentives by buying cheap materials? Answer me this. The second speaker stated how government support will make people feel safe. I see where you're coming from, but let's consider, if the installation are rushed, do you think people will feel safe considering there's a possibility of poor wiring?
Tried and failed, exactly what the opposition has done. Their first speaker stated that the government paying for incentives is apparently a waste of money. Well, I'm sorry, I never would have thought that using renewable energy to provide better electricity without the use of fossil fuels was such a waste. Their second speaker tried to state that these solar panels are low quality and the process will be rushed. I never knew humans could see so clear visions into the future. Opponents, who's to say that they be rushed and low quality? Who's to say that you are right? That's simply your imagination. She went on to say that this process will cause job loss. How would the government paying for incentives cause job loss? I never knew that could be possible. The process of paying for these does nothing but good for the island. Check your information.
And the winner is the Anglican High School. This match is between Grenada Boys Secondary School and St. Joseph's Convent St. George's. The motion is, be it resolved that renewable energy is feasible for widespread adoption in the Caribbean.
Renewable energy has already been implemented into the Caribbean. Evidence of this is shown in the project of the Cali Solar Farm stated by PERC to cut down the cost of fuel prices on Grenlec by 30%. An example of how renewable energy is being implemented in the UAE's Fundry solar plants. Another example is the loans being offered by banks, for example, Republic Bank and the Grenada Development Bank. Honorable judges, fellow opponents, and esteemed audience, can you not feel and see the signs of the heat in our Caribbean climates? We have sun, which produces heat, which is used to produce solar energy. We have the resources needed to invest in renewable energy, for example, Take Dominica, for example. They have made strides in geothermal research. Evidence? Caribbean islands are blessed with natural resources and overseas investors.
Esteemed judges, are you aware that the transition to renewable energy often involves significant upfront costs and is susceptible to high energy prices? My opponents, the upfront costs of renewable energy have decreased over the past decade, but financing still remains a critical issue. Esteemed judges, many countries have sought to increase energy prices within the sector. My opponents, this blatantly eradicates the definition of feasibility. Is this the risk we are willing to take? A pertinent illustration can be found in Germany, a country where renewable energy has been heavily subsidized. My opponents, a report put forth by the IEA, the International Energy Agency, indicated that consumers across the country have faced increased energy costs, indicating and highlighting that renewable energy's lack of feasibility for widespread adoption. My opponents, is this your definition of feasibility, straining our energy sector and increasing electricity costs across the Caribbean?
Audience, do you love the environment? Well, I most certainly do. Renewable energy is so good for the environment, so why isn't it permanently being implemented in the Caribbean when it should be? Worthy opponents, honorable judges, here are some reasons on why renewable energy has to be implemented in the Caribbean. Firstly, renewable energy is sustainable and inexhaustible, unlike fossil fuels, which are finite and depleting. Renewable sources are naturally replenished. The sun will shine, the wind will blow, and water will flow for as long as our planet exists. Esteemed opponents, this means that renewable energy offers a reliable and long-term solution to our energy needs without the risk of it running out. Honorable judges, renewable energy significantly reduces harmful environmental impacts. The burning of non-renewable energy contributes to air and water pollution, climate change, and the destruction of ecosystems. In contrast, renewable energy produces little to no greenhouse gas emissions, making it a key weapon in the fight against global warming. Worthy opponents, did you know that solar panels, wind turbines, and hydroelectric dams generate clean energy while leaving a small carbon footprint? Well, now you know.
I stand here before you today denouncing the frivolous claims made by the proposition and with decadent and unscrupulous persuasion. To elevate my team's stance, I will relate the point of affordability and economic burden on government resources. Did you know that Classic Lightning says a solar generator costs 4,000 EC dollars? Did you know that solar panels range from $8,500 to $30,500? Opponents, I am bringing this home with our very own Spice Isle. Teachers make $3,413 to $5,850 on average, according to Talent.com in a study done in 2024. Our opponents say that renewable energy is feasible for widespread adoption in the Caribbean. However, where will the monies arise from our hard-working teachers getting this salary?
Why should we not utilize the abundant indigenous resources that we have in the Caribbean?
Well, the opponent, due to fluctuations in energy output, as well as their susceptibility to getting damage from things like hurricane, did you know that Cargo had one of the best solar panel systems in the Caribbean? And did you know that it costed the government assessed the damages up to $3.2 million US dollars?
My worthy opponent,
did you know? Did you know that?
My worthy opponent, did you know that the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, is very willing, ready and willing to cover the cost of rebuilding Limlair solar
Well, the opponent,
plants?
excuse me, the point that I'm trying to say is because they are susceptible to damage, this is why we need to integrate both fossil fuels since it is readily available. For example, up in Carriacou, when there was no electricity, they depended heavily on fossil fuel powered generators. What your opponent?
It costs money to import renewable energy transducers, Money we do not have. Yet, we already possess fossil fuel plants, and all we need for it is fuel, which is cheaper than spending millions of dollars to build sustainable, renewable energy farms. Also, what good is 1 minute of sunlight when only an infinitesimal amount of it can be harvested? None. Your second speaker elaborated on the sustainability of renewable energy and it promoting economic growth and job creation. Worthy opponents, fossil fuel may not be infinite, but we have a lot of it. It will take millions of years to run out. The gases that the creation of renewable energy produces also damages the environment, especially if we are moving to it on a large scale. They also spoke on economic growth and job creation that renewable energy brings. Yet I ask, what happens to the job market that exists for fossil fuels? Those people lose jobs. The net amount of jobs created is either zero or jobs are lost.
Renewable energy has the ability to be implemented in the Caribbean. My worthy opponent, renewable energy has already been implemented and started in the Caribbean. For example, 89.6% of homes in Barbados use solar power. Take, for example, our very own developing solar plant in Calais. A rise to produce is megawatts of energy to cut down on energy price that Grenlec has to spend by 30%. So here we are. Do you think we are finally ready to shift? My worthy opponent, your first speaker professed that we should start demolishing renewable energy. But Dr. Raymond Nuss said renewable energy is the future. How would you explain that discrepancy, my worthy opponents? Your second speaker claimed that renewable energy cannot power Grenada. But Dr. Nuss again said that 1 minute of sunlight can power Grenada for up to 60 years. 60 years, my worthy opponent.
And the winner is the St. Joseph's Convent, St. George's. This match is between St. John's Christian Secondary and the St. George's Institute. The motion is, be it resolved that geothermal energy is a crucial component of the Caribbean's renewable energy future.
Be it resolved that geothermal energy is a crucial component of the Caribbean's renewable energy future. As members of the proposition, my colleagues and I are unequivocally in favor of this moot. Grenada is located within a region that has significant geothermal potential. The nearby island of Dominica has already begun exploiting geothermal energy to provide a stable, continuous power supply, significantly reducing their reliance on imported fossil fuels. Studies by the World Bank and the Caribbean Development Bank have identified geothermal energy as one of the most promising sources of renewable energy for several Caribbean islands, including Grenada. Why should Grenada not take advantage of this untapped potential? Geothermal energy, unlike solar, is available 24/7. It does not rely on weather or daylight, meaning that it can serve as a reliable backbone for Grenada's energy grid.
The evidence is clear when we take a look at how geothermal energy runs a huge risk of triggering earthquakes. This is due to the alternations of the Earth's structure as a result of digging. This problem is more prevalent with the enhanced geothermal power plants. These plants force water into the Earth's crust to open up fissures to greater exploitation of the resource. According to the Department of Energy.org, places with some form of volcanic activity are best suitable for geothermal plants, but it has been proven that these areas are prone to constant earthquakes if they implement geothermal plants. Judges, audience, do we want to put a region under so much pressure?
Do not be swayed by hopeful wishes brought by my worthy opponents who say unreliable solar and costly wind technology is the way to go. Grenada is situated in a hurricane-prone region, which makes solar and wind energy infrastructure particularly vulnerable to extreme weather events. According to Grenlec, due to Beryl, with the government's solar PV plant project being at least 80% destroyed, the aftermath of Hurricane Ivan in 2004 caused devastating losses to Grenada's solar infrastructure, and future storms pose an ongoing risk to the renewable energy installations.
It is essential to consider that geothermal energy is location restricted. The largest single disadvantage of geothermal energy is that it is location specific, according to EnergyScience.com. Geothermal plants need to be built in places where the energy is accessible, which means that some areas are not able to exploit this resource. Although geothermal energy does not typically release greenhouse gases, do you know there are many gases stored under the Earth's surface? While these gases are also released into the atmosphere naturally, the rate increases near geothermal plants, according to EnergySource.com.
Your second speaker also mentioned that solar energy helps with heat. What do you have to say about the high initial and long-term costs as well as effects of solar and wind energy implementation?
According to my research, there is actually no long-term cost. You will actually be saving money if we implement solar and wind energy, and my source is sustainableenergy.org.
Your first speaker stated that solar and wind energy plants are expensive, but they are still less expensive than geothermal plants because according to newenergy.com, a solar energy plant takes about $10 million to construct, while a geothermal plant takes about $60 million to construct. Your second speaker also stated that during a hurricane or any natural disasters, the solar and wind energy plants will be destroyed. But according to worldenergy.com, the solar plant is 60% stronger than the geothermal plant during any natural disasters or hurricanes.
I stand as the rebuttal speaker to dismantle the shaky points of our opponents. Whilst our opposition first speaker stated there are risks of earthquakes against geothermal infrastructure, my second speaker clearly stated the unreliability of solar and wind energy, as their infrastructure have been ruined by hurricanes. They are costly and unsustainable, putting a heavy financial cost on our people, as my second speaker proved. Furthermore, your first speaker stated that volcanic activities are best suitable for geothermal energy. Grenada has lots of volcanic activities that can be used for harnessing geothermal energy.
And the winner is the St. George's Institute. This match is between St. Mark's Secondary School and Wesley College. The motion is, be it resolved that the environmental risk of renewable energy waste in the Caribbean outweigh the benefits of renewable energy as a sustainable power source.
Can you believe that when we are living in a world that is trying to move forth to more renewable resources, that some people are planning against this? This is quite troublesome. We, the members of the proposition, stand in unwavering support of the moot. Be it resolved that the environment risks of renewable energy waste in the Caribbean outweighs the benefits of renewable energy as a substantial power resource. Fossil fuels produce large quantities of carbon emissions, which trap heat in the atmosphere and lead to climate change, which we are trying to avoid. In the United States of America,
The burning of fossil fuels, particularly for the power and transport sectors, account for about 3/4 of the carbon emission.
I am here to undoubtedly explain to you that the environmental risks of renewable energy cannot, in any life or universe possible, outweigh the benefits of renewable energy as a sustainable source of power. I mean, only 3% of the waste produced by the production of these renewable sources of energy is being given out. I would firstly like to inform you that the most prominent sources of sustainable energy and power in the Caribbean are solar energy, biomass, wind energy, and hydropower energy. Approximately 70% of these renewable energy sources come from these sources. According to Grenlec.org, energy security and independence in many Caribbean islands rely on fossil fuels in recent years, but they have been quickly adapting to a more green economy. Therefore, this enables the use of renewable energy sources to provide power, enabling the Caribbean economy on a whole to now benefit and not rely on fossil fuels being imported from the global market. And now we can use our own resources rather than rely on them.
What do you mean by renewable can be destroyed easily?
We mean that that renewable energy housing factors can be destroyed easily during natural disasters and flash floods and much more.
How do you come to that conclusion that the production of fossil fuels can be dangerous?
My worthy opponent, are you asking if fossil fuels are destructive?
Yes.
And the winner is Wesley College. Thank you for joining us, and do tune in for complete coverage of the first match in the next round of competition, the round of 16.
The Grenlec Debates. Power, bright ideas.
The Grenlec Debates will be broadcast on MTV Monday and Thursday at 9 p.m. and on Saturday at 6 p.m. and on GBN TV Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. and on Sunday at 4 p.m.
Tune in